I don't know about you, but our family really struggles to offer truthful and direct feedback. It often turns into a fight, or there's justification, or all kinds of things happen. And I wanted to share something that we did as a family a couple weeks ago that has been really effective. And I'm excited to share it with you. It's literally, I got out a white piece of paper and drew on it. So I'm going to show you what I did, and you can download it and print it if you want. But I would encourage you to just get out a blank piece of paper and write it for yourself. So it is, I started with the rules, and I started with what is important. And so I have a husband and one son who's 10. That's the reality of life that we're in right now. And one of the parents tends to say a lot of words when they're upset. And another parent tends to just not talk when they're upset. And so that's two extremes, right? So I am going to show you how I set up the rules, and we'll talk through those. Okay, so here are the rules for how we engaged each other. Rules for family meeting. Again, just another blank piece of paper. No one will be lectured. So this was for the child to feel safe. No lectures will be given. This was said for both parents. Short, honest statements matter. As you can see, I struggled to find the right word, but it was like, no, short statements matter. Everyone must stay at the table until the meeting is adjourned. Set defensiveness aside. Say, I will think about that. Thank you when given your feedback, which this will be important later. And then I asked my family, should we have any other rules? And my son, who is 10, said we should say there should be no burping or farting during the meeting. And I thought, absolutely. So we wrote that down as an item. And then we asked if there was anything else that needed to be added. And it was agreed that this was a good set of rules. And this sat on our table while we went through it. Okay, so here are our rules. We've all talked about it. We're clear on what to do. Here is the feedback sheet. By the way, this is the only piece I started with. No one had anything in front of them. We all had had dinner. We all were in a good space. I purposely picked an evening. I told everyone throughout the day that we were going to have a family meeting in the morning. Like in the morning, I told them we were going to have a family meeting in the evening. When we sat down at the table, this was the only piece that I started with. Then I moved to this piece. Now, so it says, a home should be a place where we grow and feel safe. For this entire year, safe has been my word. Not safe, but home should be safe. And so I explained this whole paper before we actually did it. I explained that each person got to choose one thing. So we began with me explaining the importance of us feeling safe. And a way that a family feels safe is that they celebrate the good, but they also can talk about the hard. And I don't know about your family, but in my family, we do a really good job of celebrating the good. We are not doing such a great job about talking about the hard. And so that's what that was the point of this whole entire thing. But I knew I couldn't just come straight at it. I had to kind of gently come towards it. So this was kind of our declaration for the entire time was home should be a place where we grow and feel safe. And when I mean safe, I mean emotionally safe. We have a very safe house physically and other ways, but emotionally, there has been some issues all around for everybody. And we've been working on them, but now it's time for us together to work on them. So we started with this first. I like this about our family. And so it's just a little house that I drew and then wrote around it. And so everyone wrote, they could write a phrase or a word. And then I explained that this was my box because it says mom. And so a frustration from dad. I purposefully made these boxes relatively small. The idea was to write maybe one sentence or a phrase, and that was an intentional choice. And so the dad was going to share frustration with me, and the son was going to share frustration with me. If you have more members in your family, then you would just draw more boxes for everybody, right? We only have 3 people in our family. So thus there was me who was going to be told the feedback to, and the 2 people that were sharing the feedback. And I just repeated that all the way down. Dad would get a frustration from mom and a frustration from the son, and the son would get a frustration from the dad and a frustration for the mom. And you'll see that there's like squiggle lines and things around. I did that on purpose because I know when people are uncomfortable, they need something to do. So I specifically made it that there was doodling available to them. We saved this box for last. Okay, we'll come back to this box. So I set a timer, and we took about a minute to 2 minutes to give everyone time to think. So no one talked. A clarifying question could be asked, but everyone was writing down their answers. So I wrote in this box because I'm the mom and I was writing to the dad, and I wrote in this box because I was writing to the son and I'm the mom. So these 2 boxes I left empty during this reflection time. And I also filled in this box right up here. When the 2 minutes were up, the timer beeped and I said, I will go first, because what I'm learning is you have to model it. The behavior that you want in your household, you have to model it. And so I started with my husband because I could tell that he had something. So he shared his feedback with me. And instead of offering justification, being defensive, or anything, I purposefully smiled at him and said, thank you for your feedback. Because remember, that was this rule right here. Set defensiveness aside, say, I will think about that. Thank you. And so I modeled it. And that ended his turn. And then I turned to my son and I said, what is your frustration? And his didn't make a lot of sense. So I did ask him to clarify or say a few more words, which he did. And I was able to understand what he said. And so I jotted down what each of them said so that I could remember later. Then, before I could even say who wants to go next or whatever, my son jumped in and said, I want to go. I want to go. I want you guys, I want to know your feedback, which was shocking and amazing. And so I went first. I shared my feedback, and he said, thank you for sharing that with me. I will consider it. And then my husband shared with him, and he said the exact same thing. And then we all took a deep breath and we turned to dad, because this is really hard for dad, this kind of stuff, but he did it. He did a fabulous job. And so I shared my one frustration with him, and Ben shared his one frustration with him. And the dad did a great job and said, thank you. I will consider that, or I will consider that. And then each of us wrote an I will statement in relation to the feedback within our own box. So this I will statement Had nothing to do with these boxes down here for me. They had only to do with this right here. And so I wrote, I will work on, and there were things I already knew that I would do. I had considered them while they talked. And, I wrote it out and then said it. There is power in writing things down and saying them out loud. So I wrote it down and I said it. We kind of just had like a 2 minutes or so of quiet while each person did this. There was some coloring that took place while we waited for everyone to be done. And then we finished with doing a great job at. And I said to my son, you are doing a great job at, and it didn't have to do with anything on this paper. It was just a totally separate something. And then I said it to my husband and vice versa. We did that all the way around. And that was not a written thing. I was just a direct statement. And then we adjourned the meeting and finished our meeting. So that kind of wrapped it all up. What was interesting is when we adjourned the meeting, my son immediately got up and was doing Legos or something. And my husband he's like, I have questions. And I was like, great, let's talk about it. And his questions were more like, where did this come from? And why are we doing this? And that kind of a thing. And I was happy to answer that because I am sure for him, it felt like it came out of left field. And I don't know about you, but in our marriage, that happens a lot. Like I come up with an idea and I implement it, and he is a little bit like, wait, what is happening? And so that was why I told him earlier in the day that we were having a family meeting. I was trying to offer some element of preparation. And he kind of made a comment of like, so you felt like this was important, so you decided that it was important for the rest of us? And I said, yes, I did. And one thing I'm really, really learning in my marriage for me is having confidence in leading. We're a team and teams lead each other. And so I would just like to confirm that so I didn't know, like the process went really well, but I wasn't sure how the aftermath would go. And the aftermath has been lovely. Yeah, like I just because I don't want to share our family's own personal things, but you can tell a marked difference that every single person has taken into account the feedback that was given to them and has acknowledged it and made changes or adjustments or implemented it. And I think that's really lovely. And I am excited. I'm excited for our family. And is this something we do every week? No. It might be another 3 or 4 months. I think we should do it like every quarter or at least every 6 months. But for now, everyone, got to say their thing, and it has, what it did overall over our entire house is it has lessened the level of frustration in general about everything. And some big things have happened since that night. And yet there's just been a grace and I don't know if kindness is the right word, but just a generosity of spirit that wasn't there before. And that was the goal. The goal was to create a safe home emotionally. And you don't do it overnight. You do it one day at a time, one practice at a time, one situation at a time. And I just want to encourage you. I've been sharing this with my girlfriends, and every single one of them has been like, oh, we need to do that in our house. And so that has been very encouraging to me that, oh, it's not, okay, it wasn't just my house. Like, because that's so easy to think, oh, it's just my house, or it's just my marriage, or it's just my child, or whatever. No, we all need to be able to be authentically who we are especially at home. If we can't be who we are, especially at home, where can we authentically be who we are? And as the mom, it's really important to me to create that environment. And often I think it'll just happen, and that will never be so. So I would love to hear your feedback and your thoughts. And if you do it, I would love a picture of what, what you ended up drawing up for your family. It might look totally different than mine, but I just think it's a good, important, no one ever, we never did this in my family growing up. And I hope that my son decides that he will do this in the families that he's growing up. An interesting thing, I asked my son the next day for, like, okay, it's been like 24 hours since we did the family meeting. What is your feedback? And he said, he goes, oh, that was the best meeting we've ever had. And we're not a family that, like, we do family meetings occasionally. We're not a consistent family with that. And I was like, well, can you say some more words about that? And he said, well, I mean, the first rule said that I wasn't going to get lectured, and I just thought that was amazing. I didn't sit there worried that I was going to get lectured at, and I just felt so free. So, sometimes we stumble into something and it's really great for our family. And this was something that has helped our family, and I hope that it helps yours. So, I've linked to my things below. Feel free to download them if you want to, but I really would encourage you to just draw your own and check back in, and we will show you what else is going on.